Okay, so hello and welcome to a Manor Lords early game start guide. I'm basically here just showing you the settings. We're going to be playing on Restoring the Peace default, which is generally what everyone plays on. You can play on Rise to Prosperity where there's no combat, or you can play on the Edge where there is more raiders, but no off-map adversary which won't claim your stuff. All of them generally have the same start, so let's get to it. Okay, so once you get in game, you'll get your message, and basically it tells you what you have to do to win the game. The first thing you need to do is pause. And you need to take a look around. So the map that we spawn on is always the same map. It will always be the same map. However, some of the resources and stuff might be shifted around depending. And you also you usually start on a corner, but you can, in fact, start in the middle of the map. It just can happen sometimes. What you need to look at first to determine if you got a good spawn is see if you have any wildlife and berries near you. If your berry deposit is under 24 and you have less than 20 animals, I'd recommend you just reload until one of them is at least at like 64, or in this case, wild animal deposit of 40. Once you have those two things, you can then look at what the resources of your map are. In this specific scenario, we're going to pull up the building menu and then pull up these overlays. You can look at flax, barley, and rye. But in reality, if you want a good farming village, you're going to basically be making rye. It's very easy to get. And this specific village that we have started in, we can see that farmland is basically atrocious. Now, this isn't an anomaly. This happens quite frequently. Most of the time, you spawn in something that is not able to produce a lot of food from farming. Most of these regions, actually, it looks like on this map, on this spawn, can't, besides the bottom left one, which is usually always good. And then it appears the region to the top of us is actually a good farming space. So we know that this specific village will not be used for farming. So that kind of leaves us with one option, or one of two options. We can also see that it is not in a central location, which would be ideal for a trading town. So that option strikes option number 2 off of the list. So we're kind of left with one, which means we are going to be a hunting and gathering village for berries and meat and pelts. So now that we know that, because we have checked everything else, we need to basically specialize our village. Once we get our village up and running, we're going to be needing to make a few decisions. In this case, because the berry deposit is basically a medium deposit, I have seen it as low as like 24 to 30, which means it's a very low deposit. And then on this map, there are rich deposits of berries for 128. The reason these are important is because you can get this forest management as a level 1 upgrade. It's basically free once you get your first little bit set up, which basically doubles your berry capacity. So this one would go to 128 berries, and then obviously the 128 berry one would go up to 200 something, right? So that is an option. You can also get trapping. Trapping is very useful for meat. And in this specific scenario, because our village has a rare resource of hunting animals, we're going to be going for trapping and then advanced skinning, which basically our first 2 points, which are relatively easy to get, will increase the amount of meat we get to a ludicrous level, which means we should be able to survive. After those few points, we can either get pelts. If you get pelt extraction, I will just say that you'll end up with so much leather by the end of the game, it will be funny. And you will not be able to sell anything to anyone because you have so much leather. You can also get berry management, which doubles your berry capacity, and that's just something you can do for your 3rd point. In the other scenarios, if we're going to be building a farming village in, let's say, this region over here or the region above us, we're going to be using our first 2 points to be getting rye cultivation. The orchards are nice, but rye is what you need to survive. You can get rye before you even put any farms into the ground, just by doing the first little bits of a settler's camp all the way to a small village, and then a small village to a medium village. Once you get all that stuff done, you'll be able to get rye cultivation. And then after that, you should probably go heavy plow and bakeries for a farming setup. And if you wanted to do a trade setup, which I would not recommend for your first village or your first time, but if you did, you'll be going down trade logistics and better deals. And then if you wanted to do mine operations somewhere, for example, let's say... God, there is no real good iron on this map. Wow. Oh. up here. So let's say you wanted to have a mining village, you'd go up to mining, and then you'd get deep mining for the advanced, basically so your pods doesn't run out, all right? But that's all advanced stuff. We'll come back to that stuff later. So after we've determined what kind of village we're going to be setting up, we're going to be doing the following. We're going to be checking for where water is. In this case, it seems that water is going to be down in the lower part of this little valley up here. So that is going to determine where we are going to be building our basically little town / village, because we're going to need the water for people to go and actually use. In this case, it looks like we will be placing our village over here in this region. So we're going to have to moving all of our stuff over here because we didn't get, again, and a great spawn, because usually if you get a good spawn, your water would be there, but in this case it is not, so we need to move. In that case, we're going to be moving. We're going to be placing our gathering operations. In this case, I do not want to be gathering in the woods of the animals and or berries because I do not want to chop the trees down. So we're going to be gathering in this region over here. It will also help us get to the iron mine faster. So placing our logging camp rather close is what is good so that it can gather all of its stuff. You're then going to be placing a woodcutters next to the logging camp, if I can. In this case, we're going to demolish our logging camp because I think I put it in the wrong orientation. There we go. Going to be putting our woodcutter camp next to it. And then we are going to be drawing our road to connect all of these ones up. And once they're all connected up, get a saw pit next to it, and then we should be rather good. We're going to need to be getting a forest and or hunting camp. In this case, we're going to be putting it over here along with our forager one, which will be next to it, so they can rather go together. And then this is an important step. A lot of people don't do this, but it really does speed up your ability to gather berries and hunt animals, is you build a dirt path to them. Now, usually in the red, it means that if you put a building there, the animals will migrate, and they will. And or if there's too much human activity, meaning there's too many houses near them, they'll also move. But a road is perfectly fine, so you can draw a straight line all the way there. They will go there to gather animal pelts rather fast, and you can do the same thing for berries. And this will speed up your ability to produce and or gather them faster, and it's a very good idea on your early setup. Okay, now that we have put all of our things down, we will probably be putting our village in this area just a bit to start off with. So in that specific scenario, we are going to be putting our, basically our storehouse here so that it can gather all of the resources from the woods. And then in this case, because I want to put my first few houses here, and then I will probably build them down this road and then up here, we're going to be putting our marketplace in a central location. You do this because having a marketplace in a central location means that everyone has the ability to access it rather efficiently, let's just say that, because marketplaces, how they work, without getting overly complicated, is they go to the nearest person first to satisfy their needs and then all the way out. So if everyone is centrally located, that means most of them will get most of the resources rather quickly. The last thing we need to be worried about here is obviously we need to put our water well down so that they can use it, but I'll do that after we have gathered our first little timber, and then we're going to be needing to build houses. But I will come back to all of that stuff once these first initial things are set up, and I will see you there. Okay, so now that our initial village is kind of built up, we will see that we will have food problem because we had to move all of our stuff. Another important thing that you need to get down relatively early is another hitching post. In this case, it will be used so that we can get a second oxen. You will also go to wherever your hitching post is originally, and then you will also relocate it. In this case, we're going to be relocating it all the way over here. This is so that both oxen are ready to go and can help move the logs, because one of the bottlenecks that you will see is a lot of the oxen need to be moving back and forth. Another thing, once your first storehouse is done and built, you need to allocate somebody into it so that they can actually begin moving all of these supplies that are out here on the ground, and hopefully they haven't been rained on, but they'll be out here on the ground, basically spoiling away. Once you have somebody moving them, another thing you need to get done is you need to get the granary done. In this case, because our marketplace is right there, we are going to be building a granary right here, right next to it. It should cost 10 stone, and you should have enough at game start to be able to build a granary. If you do not, or Bandit stole it, or whatever, you need to get it down fast. In that case, it means you're going to have to go to your stone deposit and set up a mining complex to gather a stonecutter's camp. This will get you your stone. If you put a few people on it, for example, you put 1 or 2 people on it, you'll have enough stone transported back probably within the first month or so to be able to build a granary. Because taking stone is very, very easy to get, okay? Once the granary is down, just check that you have enough food to survive. If you have, it doesn't matter what the number is. As long as you have 3 months of food, you don't need to assign anybody to be doing food production. If you, in fact, do not have more than 3 months of food, you need to get somebody on food production. In this case, I do not. I only have 2 months of food left, so I'm going to assign somebody to the hunting camp. Past that, it looks like I don't need any for winter, so nobody needs to be on the hunting camp. We have somebody moving everything to storage, and you need to have somebody, obviously, on the logging pit to be gathering logs out here so that they can actually get you more timber to build more things, which is why we have these hitching posts out here. Okay, once all this initial setup is done, I will see you again. Okay, so once you have finally got your second hitching post down, it is very important to order another oxen with 20 silver. You have 50 to start with, so using 20 for another oxen is a very good idea, especially in our own scenario that we have going on because we have to transport everything from over here. But getting a second oxen will also speed up logging and moving stuff around and everything, and it's a very worthwhile investment. All right, once the rest of these other buildings are done, I will come back. Okay, so at this point, we have basically all of our regular things set up. We have our granary. We need to assign somebody to actually be moving all of our quote-unquote supplies, which we have ran out of, and all of the meat and stuff we will get from the forager into the pantry so they do not get ruined. Past that, we just need to have somebody logging to get us a whole bunch of logs, which in this case means timber. Once they have a lot of timber, we need to make sure that we are not starving to death. In this case, we are, in fact, starving to death. So we need to basically focus on foraging and hunting for the initial setup. Again, this is without getting into advanced detail on some strat run that you're going to be doing. But we need to assign people here to gather our food. I will come back once we have 3 months of food. Once you have 3 months of food saved up, you should be good to be going on to stage 2, which is getting everyone out of their little homeless tents and actually getting them into houses. Okay? See you then. Okay, so we now have 3 months of food. We need to basically get 5 houses down relatively soon. It's one of our first things that we need to do. In this case, we are going to be building all of our houses up on this main road. Kind of just like that. Now, if you use this little turn thing, basically you can turn your houses. Where your actual people are going to be coming out of, where their front door is where this little house icon is. So these houses need to be obviously on the road. If you can also increase or shrink the plot size so that they can get bigger or smaller. A reason you would decrease the size is because you can, if you have this little icon here where these little additional houses, you can basically fit another family there for about 2 extra lumber, which is not a lot. And then this backyard is, this is what this little hammer icon is their backyard. If you see it, basically means they can have a backyard and get various other food benefits, so they can grow vegetables, or they could have a goat shed or a chicken shed, or they could be a construction worker of some kind. So in this case, we are going to be putting it down. We're going to be saying, yes, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 houses. Babada-boopy. Okay? Once those houses are built, I will come back. Another thing to make sure is, if you have everyone assigned, these houses will not be built. And in this case, because we have 3 months of food supply, I will take one person off of the hunting, or in this case, the forager hut. And I will also, again, each one of these has a little pantry where they can keep things. It's not as efficient to keep them there for a long period of time, but because we need to get these houses operational so that they don't have to keep traveling back to this homeless camp to rest, we will also be taking somebody off the granary until these houses are built, okay? And in this case, you could also theoretically take everyone off and just build for food. Build these houses so that everyone is here instead of hunting for a little bit of food. But either way, I will come back once these houses are done. Okay, so we have finally finished our 5 little Berger plots, which means that everyone should have a house, which means that your little worker camp out here should disappear. If it doesn't disappear, well, it means you don't have enough initial housing, but once it disappears, that means you have enough initial housing. Then you will pop up a message. We must form a militia. So, if I remember correctly, yes, once you have finally got your first little village, you should be able to form a militia of spearmen. It should give you 20 shields and 20 spears. Now, in this case, we do not actually have enough male villagers to form a proper unit because, again, we do not have enough men in the whole village. But we'll come back to that in a second later. So, once we have all of these initial setups done, we need to bum rush a church. So, in this case, we have everything we need besides what is required for planking. So, we need somebody to go to the saw pit to start on that. We're also going to need a bit more logs, for example, timber, that are being converted to the saw pit. We have 6 months of food, and we have 5 months of what appears to be fuel. So, in this case, we are going to be going back to gathering some more food, and somebody will probably need to go to the granary so that they can be moving the food. So, once you have 20 planks together, as soon as you get 20 planks, I will come back here and we're going to build our first church together. Okay, so now we have finally gotten 20 wood or 20 planks together to get our first church down. We are going to be putting it there because, again, I do not need these trees to be here anyway. So we will be constructing our wooden church right there. This is important. You must be doing these steps, obviously, in order to get the church down. Once the church is down, you will be able to put somebody in the church so that your approval rating can actually go up. Once your approval rating starts to go up, so above 50%, you will be able to start getting people. Because you have built the houses the way I have told you, you basically just need to expand their living space with timber, which means that they will have ability to have more living space, which means more people will come, and then it obviously keeps snowballing from there. But I will come back once this church is done. But the last thing I will talk before we go there is, in this case, because we have one of our points from becoming a village, because we have enough to house 5 people, in this case, I'm going to be taking trapping. Okay, once that church is done, I will come back and we will talk about how to get a manor and the first bandit camp, okay? See you then. Okay, so now that my first church is down, we need to put somebody there to get our approval rating up. Again, it is important to always remember that you need at least 3 months of food and fuel. If you go below that, you need to basically be assigning people to do it. In this case, I don't really need anybody assigned besides like one person to just make sure I have my food topped off, because bandits, which we will talk about, because they are stealing my shit. So, after the initial church is down, we need to be immediately focusing on how getting a manor, which in this case means we need more planks and we need more stone. But first, because we have a church down, we will be attracting people. The order of things you have to do is get these plots upgraded so that they can actually have more people in them. Once they have the ability to have more people in them, which should be around 10 families, you need to go gather the stone. Once you have 15 stone, you will unassign the person on these little mine out here. After you have 15 stone, because you don't need any more, you will get a manor down. And then we will talk from there, but you need to prioritize getting a manor above literally anything else at this point in the game to deal with the bandit camp. And we'll come back once our manor is down and once we have all of our stuff we need. So again, get a mining thing down rather as soon as possible, and basically kind of upgrade your Berger plots first. Then build a road out here to the stone, mine some stone, come back, build the manor house in the administration, and just make sure you always, again, have 3 months of food and fuel, preferably more before winter, but you can make that determination yourself. All right, I'll see you once our manor is built. Okay, so our manor has been built and a winter is almost here. We now have what appears to be 9 families, and there are more growing here, obviously. We got our little stonecutter camp. Took not even a few seconds to get the stone. We unassigned them and put them on the storehouse so they could be moving all of the stuff inside there. But either way, our manor is done. Make sure you put a fuel reserve on there. At this point, just before winter, you roughly should have 3 to 4 months of food, and then same for fuel. Getting food is the priority here because obviously you can't really hunt or you can't really gather berries in the winter. And in this case, you'll see our berry deposit is basically almost non-existent. You can, in fact, actually hunt in the winter, so you having your food for 3 months should be able to get you through winter, even if, let's just say, you don't hunt anything, but ideally you hunt something. And then getting fuel in the winter is relatively easy. You just go to the woodcutter's log, assign more people, and baba-da-boopy, you have more wood. Okay, so now that we have our first manor down, we should be able to get our 5 retainers. I'll talk about these probably in a different video for retainers, but basically these are your men-at-arms and or colloquially knights, but that is a wrong term because they're not knights. You, as a manor lord, are probably a knight, but these are just your household guard, is the best way I could describe it. So, at this point, we do not have enough money to recruit men-at-arms, nor do we have enough money to really upgrade their armor. So, we have 5 boys that we have to deal with. Now, at this point, it's almost winter. It is not quite winter, but almost there. At this point, we can go deal with the bandit camps. Just make sure your approval is over 50. And if you have like 14 spearmen and 5 retainers, you will be able to win this battle relatively easily, okay? So, first of all, we are going to be moving forward until it is actually winter. Once it is winter and we can no longer gather berries and everything is cold and wet outside and miserable, we will go on the attack to kill this bandit camp, okay? I will see you when snow hits the ground. Okay, so now it is a winter. We are now going to be gathering our men up to go fight the bandits. So we have just make sure you have over 57 approval because this does affect your morale. And in this case, because it is winter and we have been able to gather almost 20 people for the militia. And if you have done what I have told you to do in this early guide setup, you should have roughly around the same by December. So we're going to rally our men. This will not include the women, so they should theoretically be able to hold down the fort while we go and fight for a bit. So we're going to be gathering our retainers, obviously, and we will also be able to get our spear militia. And we need to make sure they're actually formed up into a semi-walkable stance. Now, I know it's weird to be attacking in the winter. You would think that would lead to bad consequences. I would too, but apparently not. So just remember that the bandit camp that you need to really worry about is the one that is closest to you. In this case, it will be this one. There is another bandit camp that I will also kill, but you don't need to do that. It is up here, and once that one is dead, you'll be able to do the same thing that I will show you here. Again, if you don't take that many losses, which you really shouldn't, okay? So we're going to be telling them to move, tell them to walk, not run. Going to be moving down this road, and then we will engage the bandits once we come upon them. Bandits usually seem to come out to fight you most of the time. They don't let you get to their camp, so they'll probably come fight you in the woods. So we have a few different tactical options here. We could just go straight on the road and fight them in the forest here, or we could loop around and fight them probably here. In this case, I'm just going to go to the forest route because they'll come at me and I can probably fight them in this clearing. Okay, I will show you what the battle looks like once we get over there, but just make sure you get over there, all right? See you soon. Okay, so it seems, again, I was right. The bandits are, in fact, going to attack me. So we will get our spearmen formed up, and we need to put our retainers at a back area so where they will not hit the initial enemy, or they do not both fight at the same time. Get our spear militia. There are a few stands you can go down here, but generally speaking, you either want balanced or stand your ground for the first little bit. And then we will do push forward with our retainers, but I'll show you that in a second. So, we're going to let the brigands come to us, and I will speed things up where they will attack us. Okay, so we're going to not charge our spearmen. We'll let them attack us because we actually do have an impaling stat for them to charge us. Okay, we've been charged. We'll get our retainers to basically flank the enemy. This is a relatively important step that you need to not mess up. Okay, get our retainers ready to go. We're going to do push forward, and we're going to hit them in the rear. At this point, the bandits will fight on for a little bit longer. Not much, because they are obviously getting hit in the rear with a whole bunch of men-at-arms that actually know how to fight and a whole bunch of spearmen attacking them from the front. They will not last very long. And we will watch the combat animations. There we go. Once they are broken, you do not need to worry about them. Okay, you're going to get your retainers to go to their camp. In this case, it is going to be up here. And also, I will bring my little militia here because I want them to help me kill this other bandit camp. What is it up here? Because we took literally no losses in that whole engagement. Okay. Once we get to this bandit camp, I'll tell you the last thing, and then this review should be finished, or guide should be finished, and then you can go on your merry way. So, right before you go to your camp, you need to go to the camp and right-click on it to take their stuff. A new message will pop up. This message pops up. You need to press "This belongs to my treasury now." Not the one above, send resources to the nearest town. You need to press "This belongs in my treasury now," because you'll get like 100 or 200 gold out of this. This is important because you'll be able to hire mercenaries, and a lot of mercenaries, okay? This is important because after this point, or shortly before this point, a message will pop up saying, hey, you are going to be raided in approximately 365 days-ish. And if you have done all of the steps here, you will have enough money to, when the quote-unquote raid comes, to buy a whole bunch of units. I would recommend you save before the raid and also see which way they come in, and then you can know how much strength the raid is. In usual terms, it is usually 4 raider-type units, just like the ones that we just fought here. So they're not very good, but there are 4 of them, and once you have enough money, you can obviously buy these mercenaries, feel how many you need for the raid, and then once you beat the raid, you're kind of left to your own devices. I'm not going to show you the raid, obviously, because I'd have to play for another year or so, but you get the idea. You have enough money to beat the raid. And in this specific scenario, I actually got lucky to where I didn't lose anyone. Lucky and also good at playing the game. But you can now take these retainers and stuff to go up here to kill the other bandit camp to get either more money for mercenaries or get more money in general for regional wealth and go from there, okay? But that will conclude our early game guide. At this point, you basically just need to keep going down the village line, and it tells you how to do that. You build burger plots up to level 2. You keep expanding your village, blah, 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 blah. There are plenty of guides that tell you how to do that. I'm not going to make one here. This is just to get you early set up where I thought some of the guides were lacking, okay? So past that, if you want a full military guide, I'll put one up there, and then I should eventually also put up a development guide path to tell you what is best where, okay? I'll also put that up there. Otherwise, I will see you people later, and subscribe if you do like this content, all right? See you people later.